going to say a couple of things about borrowing capacity, because a lot of people are get hampered by the borrowing capacity. And when lenders look at that, they're looking at income and expenses. On the expense side, people just don't last 10 years have been pretty good for people on the whole, except for the last one or two. And so people's expenditures changed. So people tend to spend a lot more than what they really need. And it's about, if you really want to grow a big portfolio, you've really got to analyze what you're spending to work out whether this is going to help you in the next few years. So if you really want to build a portfolio, you need to cut some things you don't really need, the discretionary stuff, initially. Only initially. Once you've built your portfolio that you want, go and spend as much as you like. But, you don't need to have 5 or 6 different, TV sort of deals going on. You don't need to eat Uber Eats 10 times a week. I don't know if you guys go out to restaurants. Crikey, they cost a lot now.
Mate, I don't do that. But there's something, Joe and I had this probably in the earlier podcast, is that people are running around, they're spending money they don't have to buy things they don't need to impress people that they probably don't like or may not like in the future. So it's kind of this, that the biggest thing comes down to, like, for the start point in my mind is just budgeting. It's pretty simple.
People hate it though. So I've known over the years that I have that, because from the financial planning background, budgeting's critical. But 98% of people hate doing budgets. But I say do it once. Just do it once. Have an idea of where you're sitting, and then plan from that. Because people aren't going to. They might do it for a week and then fall off the cliff because they don't want to continue it. Some people love spreadsheets, and there's so many budgeting tools out there, and it's so easy to do if you really want to do it. But things like, obviously, it's big decisions. Private school, maybe this is a different podcast, how private school fees affect borrowing capacity, how rent vesting or, say, owning your own home versus just buying rental properties has a massive impact on your ability to build a portfolio.
I'd love to hit on that for sure, because I think there's a massive misconception in society around that.
Yeah, and I've done the numbers, and it's when you really look at it, it's a huge impact on your ability to borrow and grow. And it's unfortunate now that, home loans, when you get to retirement age, it's still 65 at the moment. 33% of people in Australia still have a home loan. 33% when they retire, which is, America's a little bit higher than that, and it's getting worse. So we're changing the way we live, the way people's perception of owning property. It's all changing. And you really have to understand the numbers, because I still see a lot of people trying to buy their dream home as their first property. And if they do that, they're so far behind the 8 ball, and it leads to, I don't know the stats, but it can lead to financial stress, which leads to divorce, because you're so committed out the gate. And if you've got the dream home in the dream area, well, then you've got to have the dream cars, and little Johnny and Mary got to go to the dream school, and all of a sudden, they got to go on the dream holiday. Instead of going camping down at Apollo Bay, they're over to Europe, skiing in the Alps, and all of a sudden, 4 years later, they're broke and divorced.
I swear there's a design from, this is sort of getting a bit woo-woo, that they keep you in the hamster wheel, like we're sort of, I was that person, like my parents, mum's a school teacher, our dad was a jack of all trades, but tradesman turned real estate, turned, the small business owner. And I was always go to school, get good grades, get a good job, PAYG, and then buy your home, pay it down in 30 years, and then look to invest. And it never made any logical sense. And obviously I was changing that in my family. But then you start to learn, it's like your first home is not your forever home. It never, like, chances are it won't be. So it's like, well, what are you actually stressing yourself out for this thing you're going to have to sell down? Agents' fees, stamp duty, all these costs involved.
Yeah.
And then there's also the opportunity cost of capital growth, which chances are where you're wanting to live, it may not be the best place for capital growth in Australia. So